Hello everybody! Welcome to this tutorial for beginners about making a floor plan in Autocad. This is a plan of the ground floor of a care home. That's why it's quite complex, making it a great exercise if you already know the basics, but you feel you need a bit of practice to strengthen your knowledge. The aim of this lesson is to teach you some drafting tips to finish your projects faster and with precision. As well, I will teach you some of the most useful commands and the situations where they are good to use. In order to help you, I attached this exercise in the description of the video so you can download it. When you open the file, you can see all the dimensions, and with this, if you prefer, you can practice by yourself and check out the video only when you need. Another thing, the list of contents is also available in the description, and it also helps you to access the topic that you want by clicking on it. Part 1. So, I'm going to start this tutorial, and the first thing is set up the units. I type units with the keyboard and press enter. In the window that opens, in length you can choose the type of units. I can choose decimal if I work in meters or millimeters, for example. For inches, it's more common to use engineering or architectural units. In this exercise, I use decimal. Then, in the section precision, I choose the number of decimal cases that I need. For example, here, I just need 2 decimals to have the precision until the centimeters. That's because my unit is meters. On the right, on the angle units, I can choose from rods, gradients, or degrees. In insertion scale, it's not important to set this unit here if I don't use content from a different file. That's because AutoCAD uses a-dimensional units, and if I draw a line of dimension 1, that can be wherever I want, meter, millimeter or kilometer. But anyway, if I specify here meter and I insert a block from another file with units millimeters, as you see here, it will be automatically resized. The width of this door is now 0.9 meters. When I'm done, I click on OK to close this window. Okay, let's start drawing the floor plan. As a guidance, you can use the PDF file that I add in the description. You can print it, or if you have a tablet or a phone, print it and follow it while practicing. Now, the first thing, I will draw the outline of the exterior wall altogether, and I will use the command Polyline for it. I'm going to type PL or Polyline, or click on this line over there. So I will start in this corner, and I have to click for the first point. The first line, as I want it horizontal, I move it to the right until I see this dashed green line. This indicates that the line is completely horizontal. At this moment, I can type the length, which is 3.3 meters. After will be this vertical line, and when I see the dashed green line, I can type 0.45. Then again a horizontal line, 13.20. After again a vertical line of 2.25. And for this section, I'm not going to draw this in detail. For the moment, I draw just 3 horizontal lines. One of 4.75, the second 1.50, and the third 7.35. Okay, I keep drawing the lines until I finish all this polyline. I fast forward it because you should be able to draw it by yourself until the end and you get a bit of practice. For the last line, I type CL or close, and this will connect to the origin of the polyline. So, now that I finished, I will show you the command that I can draw automatically the inner line of the exterior wall. It's offset. I can type with the keyboard O or click in the icon here, this one. Then I have to specify the offset distance, which will be the one between both lines. I type 0.3 and press enter. Right next, I click on the polyline and then click inside the area to place the new object here. So it was very simple, as you see. Okay, the next step is to draw the internal walls. Of course, there are plenty ways to proceed without spending a lot of time. And in this tutorial, I've chosen one method, and during this process, I will be showing how we can use some of the most useful commands. So, I decided to draw first this wall here, and then all the walls that are above. And if you prefer, you can draw in a different order, as the measures are all in the PDF file. I am going to use the command line. Then I move the pointer over this corner, and if the object snap, which is this icon, is turned on, I can move slowly down from the endpoint, and you will notice this dashed line with this label that says extension. Now I can type the length that I want, which is 3.45, and press enter. So the new line will start with that distance from the endpoint. Okay, as I want the line completely horizontal, I have to follow the polar tracking until I reach the wall and see this cross symbol. If I click now, I place the second point of the line exactly in the intersection. Also, the dashed green line must be here to make sure the line is horizontal. I click and then I press escape to exit the command. Okay, now I will draw the vertical lines which separate the room. For the first room from the right, I will do the same process. I type L, go to this endpoint, move left and type 3.75. I can make a vertical line here until the horizontal line I just created. Then I press escape to exit the command, and after I'm going to use offset to draw lots of vertical lines. It's very simple. First I type 0.1, as this is the distance of the internal walls. I click in the line, then I move left to place the new one. Then I click in the line I just created and type the distance of 3.75. Again, the last line, this time is again 0.1, which is the distance that already appeared here. And that's because when we use the command, the first distance that we entered is showed as default. So I just keep drawing the lines until I reach the kitchen. Once more, you can keep following the PDF file to get practice. Okay, when these doors are done, I have to get rid of the extra segments I got here. And the command trim is an effective tool to do this. But first, I need to draw a line here. I activate again the command. Then I go to this endpoint. I move to the left and type 1.6 and press enter. So I will draw the line here. Then I press escape. And at this moment I will delete all these sections of lines with the command trim. It's simple. I type TR or click in the icon there. I'm going to select all the objects. I press enter. And now, by clicking, I can delete parts of lines that are limited by intersections. If I click here, I delete this section, and the same in this one. I could still use the selection area, as you can see here. And those two that you can see, I'm not able to delete. And do you know why? Because after deleting the previous parts, they became separate objects, and I can just click on them later. So let's continue trimming the other parts here. There is another in this side, and when I finish, I can simply press enter. But wait, there are more here. Anyway, these are just details that I can do in the end of the project. Now that I finish, I press enter, and I can click now in the lines I talked about and press delete. So you are now able to draw all the internal walls of the floor plan. But I will show you how to draw this detail here because it's a bit more complicated. I will use the command line, offset and trim. If you prefer do a pause in this video, try to draw it, and if you get any issue, just come to the video again and check out one of the possible methods. I start drawing the vertical wall from this intersection of these lines. I activate line and I will draw it at 4.75 from the corner, which is exactly this endpoint. I click and for the line dimension I type 2.80, as you can see in the plan. Then I press escape and I use the command offset again, and as this is an exterior wall, the width is 0.3, and I click. But in reality, the wall in this part is diagonal, but as I have these distances in the PDF, I can draw it easy. For example, I can draw these two lines, and after I draw the diagonal from the intersection. From this endpoint, I drag up and type 0.7 and make a horizontal line here. Then I do the same to the other side. I enter 0.7 and click here. Then I press escape. Type L to enter the command line and use both points at the intersections to make it. It's easy. Now, offset, and is it still the exterior wall? I keep 0.3 and offset it below. But yes, I need to extend the new line until the other walls. One way to do it is click on it, and in this extremity, I move the mouse in a way that keeps the direction of the line, and when I see extension here, I try to click on the intersection, which is this cross. Then I do the same for the other side. To deselect the line, I press escape, and then I can delete the lines that I don't need. Now it's time to introduce another command for drawing symmetrically. It's mirror. I type MI, or the icon is located there. Select just the objects that I want to mirror, press Enter, and then I need to draw a line which will act as a mirror. I click in this midpoint, and if I draw a vertical line, everything that I have selected will be copied to the other side of this mirror, keeping the same distances to it. Here in Erase Objects, I just know to keep the original ones. OK, to get rid of these extra lines again, with the command Trim it's easy. You can do it by yourself. Select everything, press Enter. Then I open the selection box here, select all these parts, and these ones I can click on them. It's simple. The last that remains, I need to click on them and delete. OK, just finish it until I have no lines inside the walls. So, the remaining parts of the internal walls I'm not going to show you here, because now you should be able to draw them using the commands I taught you previously. Anyway, I will show you a couple of tips. Using the command Extend. Here, to draw these walls, I use the command Offset as I did before and specify the distances required. Here, 0.1 for this internal wall. The next will be 2.5, and then I keep doing these lines until the end. I will fast forward it. When I finish all these vertical lines, I need to extend them until the horizontal line below, and for that I will use the command Extend. I can type EX, or I can find the command in this arrow next to Trim. I select first the objects where I want the lines to be extended, press Enter, and then click in the lines to be extended. This room, I decided to draw it after, but it's simple. Using Line, I go to the endpoint, drag to the left, and type 2.55. Then I do the same but vertically. I type 2.5, and now I connect this line to the exterior wall. Press Escape. After, I want to offset this, but I need a polyline here instead of two lines. That's not a problem, because I can always use the command Join to merge lines in a polyline. I activate the command, select lines, press Enter, and as you see, they were converted to a polyline. Then I offset a polyline 0.1, press Enter, and click below here. Finally, again the same, trim the segments that I don't need. I select everything and click on the objects to erase. Another method, in the trim selection, if I would select these two horizontal lines and this vertical line, when I click in the parts to trim, as you see, it erases everything until this vertical line. Part 2. In this part, I will start showing to you to draw the lift in the floor plan. And for that, I will introduce to you the grid mode and the snap mode. We can find both icons in the status bar here, but for most cases they are just useful when they work together. Or I have both turned on or turned off. First, I will show you them briefly. The grid mode is this icon, and it displays a grid in my workspace. Now I'm going to zoom in, And you can see that the grid is resizing few times. But at one point, it will not resize anymore. And it's the moment when I know this distance. The snap mode is the icon which is next to the grid mode. I click on it. It doesn't do anything now, but if I enter a drawing command, for example line, you can see the pointer moving only in certain places. So, all this can be editable if I click in this arrow and go to the snap settings. So, the first tab is where I can edit the snap and the grid modes, and in this part I can edit the snap spacing. At this moment, as I have 10 here, my pointer moves in distances of 10 meters, which is too much for my drawing. So I will decrease it to a measurement that it can be small enough for the things I need to draw in this floor plan. And I think 1 centimeter suits well. So I put 0.01 for both X and Y spacing. And as I have a tick in this box, every time I change one spacing, the other will follow. For grid spacing, I keep exactly the same as the snap. In this way, it snaps all the points of the grid. For the major line spacing, I keep 5, and if you look to any major line, it's divided in 5 minor lines. I click on OK. And now, if I activate a drawing command, for example line, you can see the pointer moving in distances of 1 centimeter. And it snaps all the grid points. So let's go back to the floor plan. But before drawing anything, I want to show you something. Imagine you haven't used the grid and snap modes and suddenly you turn both on if you zoom until you reach the maximum. At any specific detail of your floor plan, you may notice that your drawing doesn't match the grid lines. So, if this happened to you, you can enter the command move by typing M and press enter. Now you select all your drawing, press enter, click in one of the endpoints, for example I go to this corner, and now I'm going to move everything to a corner of a major line. I keep zooming in until it's maximum zoom. And now I can click. If I check the different parts of this floor plan, I can notice it fits well in the grid. Okay, after these few tips, I will finally draw these details which represents a lift. I'm going to start. The measurements are located in the PDF file, so you can easily follow it. I'm going to introduce to you a new command rectangle, because I have to draw 3 of them. To start the command, I type REC or click in that icon there. I go to this endpoint, click on it, and now I have to insert first the distance in the x-axis, which is 1.8, and for the y-coordinates, as I'm drawing in opposite direction of the axis, I type minus 1.8. After I press enter to activate again rectangle. Click again in the same endpoint, and this time I use the grid to help me. As this distance I know it will be 0.2, it means that this corner is located 2 squares from the corner below. And of course you have to be sure the grid and snap mode are on. The third rectangle. I click again 2 squares from the second corner, and after it's the same. As you see, it was still simple with this method. And be aware that rectangle is not actually a command, it's just an easy way to draw a polyline for rectangles or squares. Then the remaining parts of the lift you can make by yourself following the PDF, as they are simple. On the next section of this video, I'm going to insert the doors in the floor plan. But first I want to show you how to draw them. I will start with the door frame, and I use for that the command rectangle. I click to insert the first point, and then the second point. I know it's located at 5 cm to the right and 10 cm up. Now I need to copy this rectangle also to the other side of the frame. For that, I can use the command copy. I select all the objects, press enter, then I choose this base point. I drag the mouse horizontally to the right and type the length of the door, which is 0.9 meters, plus the frame, so in total 0.95. And draw a vertical line. With the command line from here, that represents the maximum opening of the door, and the length is of course the same, 0.9. Finally, I need an arc here, which can be made easily with the command arc. To draw an arc, I have to go to that icon located there, but instead I click in the arrow below, because as you see there are plenty of ways to draw arcs. I'm going to choose this one, Start, Center, End. As by default the arcs are drawn anti-clockwise, I choose first this point. Then the center is the intersection with this line, and look, now the direction of the arc. I click for the last point here. Instead, if I would choose for the start point this one, then the center in the same place, this is what happens. Okay, before going forward, there is one thing I haven't focused deeply in this video. It's the object snap. To remember these endpoints that appear, also extensions or midpoints which are used to snap the pointer exactly for these specific places, they can be set up in the arrow next to the object snap icon, and in this list I can add or remove the object snap modes that I want. But if you want to know more about this, just click in the card that appears above. It's a specific tutorial for beginners about object snap. If you don't know much about this topic, I recommend to watch it. I think it's important. Okay, I finished the door. And as you remember, it's compounded by different objects that I drew, arc, line and rectangles. But if the entire door was just one object, I guess it would be better to select and do things with it. I will show you how to do this. Let's click in this icon there that says Create a block. Then in this panel, first I can choose a name for the block. For example, I write Door Standard. Right away, I have to select the objects of the block. I click in this icon, and then I select everything. I press Enter, and finally I have to pick a base point. Here, where it says Specify on Screen, I click on OK. I choose now the point which will provide me to move the block. Then you will understand. If I drag the mouse over, you can see here block reference. This is very useful if I want to insert a door. I click in this icon and here it is. Just place it where I want. Now we are ready to insert doors in the drawing, but first I want to talk about layers. If we look to the floor plan, you can see that different kinds of objects have different colors. In fact, they are grouped in layers, as this is a good technique for organization. In this case, I have the walls in one, the doors in another, and windows in another layer, and the same for the text or dimension lines. Let's see how this works. To access to the layer properties, I'm going to click in this icon here, or I can also type L. So, this is the Layer Properties Manager. Here I can create new layers and edit them. I'm going to show to you to create a layer for the walls and another for the doors. If I go here and click with the right button of the mouse, I can create a new layer. For the first one, I would type walls and press enter. Then I do the same, but for the doors. In this section, I can change the color. The walls, I keep them white. But don't forget that this white color is transformed into black in the layout, and it's the only color that changes. All the others remain the same. For the doors, I'm going to change the color. For example, this one. Click in OK. Then I will move the objects to the right layers. For example, I'm going to select the doors. They are located now in the layer 0. Click here and change it to doors. Oh, and I realized that this color is very dark, so better to change it to a lighter one. And remember that if you use a dark workspace, you should use here light colors in order to see them. Then I select the walls, click in the tab above, and now change it to walls. So, going again to the Layer Properties Manager, you can see the two new layers that I created. So, if you want to know more about this topic, click in the card that appears right now, and in that video there are the basic concepts you must know about layers. Part 3. In this part, I will start inserting the doors in the drawing and teach you some tricks to do this process faster. As we have created doors in the part 2 of this tutorial, we can easily insert a door by going to the block panel. Click in this icon and select the door. I want to insert the first one in this room, and as I know, it's located at 5 cm from this wall. I know it's here if I'm using the grid of the snap mode turned on. But be careful. If I click at this moment while the midpoint is appearing on the screen, the door will automatically snap to that position, and this means that I have to turn off the object snap temporarily. I can easily do it by pressing F3. Now I can click in this point. Then I do the same. I go to Insert Block and place it in this room. Again 5 cm from the wall. Now, if I look to the floor plan, we can see that the doors are in different positions and openings. And these are the 8 ways they can be in the floor plan. So, let's use a simple method to do this easily and fast. First, I insert another door by clicking here again. Then, I want to add another door that opens in a clockwise way. And for that, I can use the command mirror. I select the objects, press Enter, and draw now a vertical mirror line, for example, here. Then I choose No to not erase the original objects and press Enter. After, I can do Mirror again by pressing Enter to activate the previous command. I select both doors, draw this time a horizontal mirror line, and then press Enter. After, I just need now the 4 remaining ways, and if you pay attention, you realize I have to rotate them 90 degrees. For this process, I can use the command Rotate, which is this icon located there. I click on it. I select all the objects, press Enter. Then I can click here, for example. I'm going to rotate until I see the vertical polar tracking. After, as I want to keep the original objects, I type C for copy and press Enter. Finally, I click again to confirm its position. So, now it's easy to insert the doors in the floor plan. I'm going to type copy. As I want to keep these ones here, I select this door, and as the object snap is off, I have to zoom in to click exactly in this corner. I'm going to add this one to this room, and the distance from the wall is the same, 5 centimeters. After, I have to go to the other room, which has the same kind of door, and do the same. For the doors placed right below, they are just symmetric of the ones I just insert. This means I can use the command Mirror again, select the 4 doors, press Enter, then I need to draw a horizontal mirror line in the middle of this corridor. So, as I have a separate line here, I press now F3 to turn on the object snap. I drag the pointer over the line and I can see the midpoint appearing. I click there, and while I draw the mirror line, you can see the objects below appearing in the right place. Now I want to show you a different type of block references. It's the dynamic block. A dynamic block is a block reference that has parameters to perform actions. For example, in this block, I add a parameter which flips the door to its symmetric. And this icon flips it upside down. So, before starting, I want to say that the dynamic blocks are a bit hard to learn. And this is not really a tip for beginners, but as I find it quite useful, I want to make a small introduction to this tool. If I go to the block panel and click on this icon that says Block Editor, this window appears, and here I can choose a block to edit. I click Endorse Standard, then OK. Now we are in a specific workspace for editing blocks, and a new tab appeared in the ribbon. Here most of these icons are used for dynamic blocks. On the left we have the block authority palette, and here we can add parameters to the block. So for our case is simple. I want to add a flip parameter in the middle between these two frames. For that I have to draw first a horizontal line. So using the command line, I go to this endpoint and draw a line until this other side. Then I press Escape, I click in a flip parameter, find this midpoint and draw a vertical line. Then I click again to place the flip state 1. But as you can see, it's not finished. Even I add a flip state, I need to add objects to it. But it's easy. I'm going to click in this yellow mark. I select the parameter which is flip state 1, press enter, and finally I have to select the objects which compound the door. But the horizontal line below, I don't select it. I press enter and I can delete this line. Finally, I save the block and close the editor. OK, if I return to the floor plan and click in one of the doors, I can see that the flip action and change easily the direction. Now I'm able to insert all the doors. However, there is a door in this diagonal wall, which I want to show you a simple tip. It's about the UCS coordinates. Returning to the floor plan, we have to get rid first of this section of wall. As you may remember, it's easy to do. You can select this line and extend it until it reaches the line above. Next, use the command trim to erase the parts that I don't need. There is more than one way to rotate objects to fit in this wall, and this time I'm going to show to you how to use the UCS coordinates. If I go with the mouse and click in the UCS, I can select it, and then if I click in the blue square, I can move it to a different place. And this time I want to place the coordinates in this diagonal wall, for example in this point. Now if I click in the x-axis, I can rotate it to the position that I desire. And as I want it to match the diagonal line, I can click, for example, in this midpoint or the end point of this side. Perfect. Now it will be very simple to insert a block. I click in Insert Block and select the door, and you realize that the door has rotated to match the UCS new position, and I can easily place it into the wall. However, as I want the door exactly in the middle of the wall, I leave it here first. Then I'm going to draw a line between the frames, and after that I use the command Move, select the door and press Enter, and for the base point I choose the midpoint of this line. Finally, I have to place it here. Now it's exactly in the middle of the wall. When I finish, I can return the UCS to its original position by clicking in it. Go to this square and then select World. Now it's again as it was before. Next thing, these double doors, I have to draw them separately. The dimensions are located in the file and consequently I can create a block reference for them. But those ones located in the toilets, I will make for them a different process that I will show you later. Before going to the next section, I want to show you quickly to draw this double door. And I think you can make it easily by yourself. Like the single door, I use the command rectangle to draw the frame, and it has the same measurements, 0.05 per 0.1 meters. Then I draw a line here with 0.7 meters of length. And for the arc, this time I used a different option, center, start, end. This means that the first point will be the center. Then, as the arcs are drawn anti-clockwise, I choose for the start point this one, on the right at 0.7 meters. So look how it makes the arc. Click here for the end point. Okay, as you can see, I just drew half of the door, as the remaining part is simply the symmetric. And using the command mirror, I select everything, press enter, and draw the mirror line from the start point of the arc. Like this. So it's done, and I'm now able to create a block. For the name, I can type double door, for example, then click in OK. Oh, I didn't select the objects, but I can do it now. Select them all, click in OK and choose a base point. Finally, I just need to insert the doors to its place. The first one will be here, but look at the end point. As I don't want it there, I have to switch off the object snap and the location will be 5 centimeters from that point. The door below, I place it in this grid line. Part 4. On the first section of this part, I will start drawing the walls of the private toilets. For that, I can use the command Multiline to draw the first border of the wall. I click for the first point, and then I have to type 1.4. This polyline is composed by two lines, so the second one will be again 1.4. Then I press Escape. Now, in order to draw this line in the corner, I will introduce you a new command, the command chamfer. The icon is located here. I have to click in this arrow and then select chamfer. This is used to convert corners in a diagonal line, and the following distances have to be typed. So, as I haven't defined any distance yet, I have to type T and press Enter. Now I have to specify the first chamfer distance, which is 0.25, and the second one is the same. Just press Enter again. The first line is the first distance that I insert. I click in this one, and the second is that one. I press Enter and exit the command. Then, as this is still a polyline, I can use the command offset to draw the other border of the wall. Type O, press Enter, and as the distance of the internal wall is 0.1, I type that value, press Enter, select the polyline, move to the right and click. Then press Enter to exit. Now I want to show you an important tip about the offset. I could draw all these using the lines, but then when I enter the command offset, I realize that I can only select the line at once, and the command will not work as I desire. If this happened to you, you can use the command join. Do you remember it? Simple, just select everything, press Enter, and these objects are converted to a polyline. After this, the next step is to insert the furniture objects in the drawing. As they are a bit complex to draw, I can use templates for them. In this case, they are blocks that I have in another file. But now you can ask, how can I get them? It's easy. There are a few websites where you can get them for free. Just check out the description of the video. There are a few links. So, as I have these blocks in a separate file, there is an option to insert them directly in the current drawing. If I go to View, in the section Palettes, there is an icon to open the Design Center. Here is where you can insert content from another Autocad file. For example, blocks, dimension styles, layers, line types, and so on. On the left, you have the folder list. Here is where you can search for the file that you want. In my case, I need the file bath furniture, and for the toilet, I want this block. I double click on it, and you can see the window to insert a block. Now this is important. Do you remember in the part 1 of this tutorial when I talked about units here? If you have chosen meters for the insertion scale, you can see that in this case the block is set up as millimeters. So when I click in OK, the measurements are converted automatically. Then just click anywhere to place it. This time I'm going to do the same for the sink, which is this one. I double click, then I click in OK, and you can leave it here, for example. Now I can close the Design Center and return to the drawing. OK, I have to move these blocks to fit in the room. I type M to activate Move. First, I'm going to move the sink to this position around here. I can zoom, so it's better to see if it fits in the drawing. For the toilet, first I have to rotate it. I can click in Rotate, which is this command here. Click on the block. Now I can select this midpoint, move vertically down, and I can click when I see the dashed line. Then I move it to the left of the sink. As you may imagine, this is not very precise because the furniture objects are just representative. Okay, the room is almost finished. I just need to insert a door. As I have created a block for the doors before, I can click in Insert and select the door. I want it exactly at the end of the wall. So I click now and it will snap to the end point. Once I finished, I convert all the system to a block, or you can also group the objects. It's faster than converting to a block. I just need to select the objects, click with the right button, then go to Group and click here. If I click in the drawing, I can choose the blue square and move it around. And this can be a good option for kinds of objects that I will need only once or twice. However, for this particular case, I will need to insert this toilet several times and in different positions, so it's better to convert to a block. First, I'm going to insert two lines here. I hover this endpoint on the top, then move vertically down to find this intersection. I click and connect the second line here. After, you will understand why I'm doing this, don't worry. Now, I type B to create a block. Select Objects. No, I have to insert first the name of the toilet. Then, yes, I select the objects, choose everything and press Enter. Then click in OK, and the base point is going to be this corner. Now the block is done. If we look at the floor plan, we can see these rooms placed differently, so it's better to convert to a dynamic block. You can try to do it by yourself, but I'm going to show to you. Click in this icon to edit the block or type Edit. Select the block which is the toilet here. Click OK. And now I'm going to create a flip again. Click here. Choose the midpoint and place the flip state 1 there. Then click in the exclamation point to select the objects. I can select everything and press Enter. Now to rotate this upside down, I insert another flip here in this endpoint. I double-click in the exclamation mark and select all the objects. OK, since it's finished, I can delete the lines that I don't need. These two. Sometimes in the block editor, objects keep selected even I press Escape. I think it's a kind of a bug. But when this happens, just select everything again, press Escape, and the selection is empty. Then I can click again in the lines and press Delete. Save the block and close the block editor. Finally, if I look to the floor plan, I can easily insert now the toilets in each room. Only the second one, it's rotated 90 degrees, so I can do it separately. In the units 1 and 3, the blocks are inserted exactly as I have created the block. And can you see the base point? Due to that, it's very easy to insert it in the corner of the room. In the unit 3, it's the same. Click here. Then let's insert the private toilets in the rooms below. For this one, I click in the arrow to place it upside down. The next, placed here, I click in the corner of the room, then use the arrows to flip it. First, to switch the horizontal direction, I click on this one, but I realized I haven't used the parameter correctly. However, this is not a problem, since I can always go back to the block editor. Select the toilet, and when this sounder is displayed here, means that the block is dynamic. Click in OK, and back in the editor, I click in the first flip state and move it to the UCS coordinates. Then I can click in the arrow to separate it from the other. Click in the square and move it, for example, here. Finally, save changes and close. Back in the workspace, click in the arrow and now it works fine. Then, click on this one to place it upside down. Okay, the remaining ones you will make by yourself. I just want to show to you quickly the rotated one. First you place it in the corner, and finally use the command rotate, select the block, press enter, click in the base point, which is the corner, and then move the mouse up and click when the dashed line is visible. It's done. Okay, we are almost finishing part 4, but before I have to mention the different color of the layer where I have the doors. But no problem, you can draw with the color that you want. And when you want to change, just go to the layer properties, click in color, then if I change it to yellow, you will see that all the doors changed. Part 5. Here I'm going to show to you to draw the staircases and then the windows, where I want to teach you another parameter for dynamic blocks. Let's start drawing the staircase located in this room, and all the measurements can be seen here. We will start with the threads on the left side along with the handrail, but before starting I want to create a new layer for the stairs. I go to the Layer Properties Manager, click here with the right button, then New Layer. I name it Staircase and choose a color for it. Then on the Layers panel, I have to click and change this to the new one, Staircase. Now I can start. The first thing I would draw is a line for the first thread on the left. I type L and press enter, and as the line is located at 1.3 from the top wall, I go to this endpoint, I move slowly down, type 1.3, and then I need a horizontal line of length 1.1. I press enter, and you see that the line is still white, even I'm drawing in the layer staircase in violet color. Although this happened because on the properties panel, on the color section I have by block. I click on the tab and change it to by layer. But you can see that it didn't do nothing, because I have to select the line and then do it again. Nice. Then, with the tool Offset, I am going to show to you a tip to draw all these lines very fast. As I need 8 of these lines with the same space between them, there is a fast way with the command Offset. I type O, then type the width of each thread, 0.25, click on the line, and this time I choose this option, Multiple. I type M and press enter, and then anytime I click, a new line appears, always with the same length as the previous one. When I have the 8 lines, I can press Enter to exit. After, I want to draw the handrail, but this, I leave it for you to make it. Just find the distances in the file. However, this part at the right, you can leave it a bit longer than half, because after we have to trim it. So, to copy these lines to the other side, it's easy with the command mirror. Type NI, I select the lines, press Enter, then I have to find this midpoint and draw a vertical mirror line. And choose No here to keep the source objects. If you look at the final drawing, you can see this diagonal line crossing the stairs, meaning they continue to the floor above, and because this is schematic, you can draw however you want without any precise dimensions. But let's make it. I can draw a line more or less here until I reach the wall at the right. For example, here. Then I can get rid of everything above the diagonal line. With the command Trim, I can select all this part, press Enter, and I can select everything here to trim the segments. Then this part, I have to press Escape to cancel. Select these lines and press Delete. Finally, to draw this small detail here, it's not very important, but meanwhile, I want to show you a new Object Snap mode. First, I'm going to activate the command line, and as I want to draw the new line starting at this diagonal line, it's a bit hard as at this moment it only snaps to the midpoint or to the end point. However, if I click in the arrow next to the Object Snap icon and activate the mode Nearest, I can now snap the first point to the diagonal line, but have in mind that this distance will not be accurate, and the Grid mode and Snap modes, I turn them off as for now I don't need them. So I'm going to draw the 3 diagonal lines, and the icon Nearest makes me sure that I connect them to this line. Finally, with Trim, I select these objects and delete these 4 segments. Okay, this staircase is finished. No, not yet. I need a small line here. Okay, now yes, I finish it. In the floor plan, there is another compartment of stairs, which is disposed symmetrically in comparison to the first staircase, and the length of each thread is a bit smaller. First, I will copy the staircase to the other compartment, and I want this midpoint to fit in the middle of the horizontal length, and to do that, one process is to draw a line here. I can start drawing, for example, a horizontal line between these 2 walls. Then, using the midpoint of the new line, I draw a vertical line until the bottom. Then, I can copy the staircase to place it in the new room. I'm going to use the command Copy. Select everything, press Enter, I select the midpoint, then I move horizontally to the right, following the polar tracking, as this keeps the same distance to the wall below. Finally, I click in the intersection with this vertical line. I press Escape, and delete the lines that I made only for helping me. Then, to flip the staircase, I can use the command mirror. I select the objects, and for the mirror line, I click in this midpoint. I draw a vertical mirror line, and now it's important. In Erase Source Objects, this time I click in Yes to delete the original ones. Okay, it's almost finished. I just have to delete the segments that go out of the room. Remember that this staircase is a bit smaller than the first one. Okay, I will not show you how to do it. You can make it by yourself to practice, it's easy. On the next chapter, we are going to insert the windows in the drawing. And if you look at the floor plan, you can see that not all of them have the same size. Basically, here I'm going to draw just one of them, then I convert it to a dynamic block where I will teach you a new parameter to insert. First, if you haven't done it yet, you can create a new layer to place the windows. So, let's draw this window with length 0.9 meters. First, I go to the Layers tab and change the layer walls to windows. Then, I'm going to draw a rectangle to make the outer line. I click for the first point, and I insert the coordinates 0.9, which is the length. Press Tab and enter 0.08 for the width. After this, with the command line, I make the vertical lines that represent a frame. It's in this grid point, but I should switch off the object snap temporarily. I click, and then the second point is up here. I go to the other side and I do exactly the same. Okay, I press Enter and draw the remaining line in the middle. As it is at a distance of 0.4 meters, I know it's in this grid line. I zoom in here and I can click in this point. Draw a horizontal line until there. So it's finished. Now I'm going to change the layer to the layer walls for drawing these lines. The line starts 5 cm below the corner and the length is 0.3. I do the same for the other side. Okay, to convert this to a block, I'm going to the Layer tab, click in Layer 0 because it's recommended to create blocks in this layer. I type B, press Enter. First I insert the name, and then let's select the objects and the base point. Now I can convert this to a dynamic block. And a fast way is when the block is selected, click with the right button and then in Block Editor. So this is not necessary to select the block. Okay, now I want to insert a parameter that will change the length of the window. The first thing, I need to go to the Parameters tab, and this time I click for Insert a Linear Parameter. This is basically a parameter to measure the dimension of the entire window. So the start and the end points are the tops. After, as this by itself doesn't do nothing, I need an action. I click here, and the action is going to be a stretch. Then I select a parameter distance 1. The point to associate with action is this one that makes the length changing. I click there, then I draw a frame around the area, this is the area that I want to stretch, and the objects, I will select all these, keeping that line unselected, because it will not move from its place. Finally, I save and exit. Then I'm going to the block and click on it. And here you have the parameter point. It's what I set up before, and if I click on it, you can see all the windows stretching. For example, if I want a new length of 1.35, I type it and it's modified. Now I hope this is clear, but if you are not sure how to use the command stretch, click in this card that appears above. It's a quick video about that command. Okay, now I guess you have the knowledge to insert all the windows in the floor plan, but I want to show to you a couple of tips. For example, I could insert a window one by one in each place, but as I have to modify the length every time, it's different. Maybe there is a better way to do it. So let's see the case for these windows in this wall. First, you must be aware that they are flipped upside down. This means that we could add a flip parameter to the block, or we can change the direction of the UCS coordinates. I go with the pointer to the UCS, click here and change it to this wall, for example. Then I could click in the y-axis and rotate it 180 degrees. And if I insert a block at this moment, it's flipped upside down. And I place it here. With this window, I can stretch it to 1.36 and press enter. And then I can copy this window with the command copy to their places. For the base point, I click in this one, and for the first window I go to this endpoint, drag it to the left and type the length of 1.44. From this endpoint, I drag left again and type the next distance between these windows. Then I keep doing this until I finish all the windows of 1.35 meters of length. As you see, this can be very useful, as I can copy one object to several places without the need of selecting the object again. At the end, I can change the window that I put outside to 0.9 meters, then copy to the places that has these lengths. Okay, this part is almost finished, but I want to be sure you won't have problems to draw the windows in the diagonal wall. It's again with the UCS coordinates. I'm going to move it to that corner, click on the x-axis to rotate it, and to move the cursor along this diagonal line, I can click in the other endpoint up there. Then, as I have to invert the x-axis, I click on it again and rotate it 180 degrees until you see the green dashed line. Finally, I can insert a window as I did before. Part 6. In this part, I will teach you to insert text in Autocad in several ways, and then how we can plot the project with setting up a scale to print and choose the paper size that we require. On the first section of this video, we will learn to insert text in Autocad, and what we have to do is to insert these room labels on the floor plan. Okay, the first thing I recommend is to create a new layer to place all the text objects, and in my case, I've chosen a light gray color. To insert text in Autocad, there are two options. If I go here to the annotation panel and click in this arrow, there is single line and multi-line text. As in this case, the labels only have one line. The option single line text is fine for me. Now one thing, the keyboard shortcut of the command single line text is TE, and it's the first option that appears here. I tell you this because if you would type only T, the option that would come is the multi-line text instead. I activate the command, and the first thing is to click for the start point. Then I specify a vertical line where its length will be the height of the text. In this case, I want it 0.5 meters. Then, this dashed line indicates the rotation or direction of the text. If I click here, the text would appear like this. But as I want it horizontal, I can click when it says polar. I click to start typing the text. When I finish, I click in another place and press escape. Back in the floor plan, now I am able to insert all these single text objects. I can do the same for all the others, or to be faster, what I'm going to do is to copy this text to all the rooms here. Only after, I change the name of one by one individually. So, I can use the command copy. I select the text, press enter, specify the base point, for example more or less here, and then I'm going to copy it to each room. As this doesn't have to be with precision, I can just place it roughly in the middle. When I finish, I can press escape. After this part, I just have to click in each label to rename it. For example, I go to the dining area, I click in this text and change the name to dining area. This one is the kitchen. Click again and type kitchen. So, I will keep doing this until I change all the names. Also, I can click in the base points to change to a better position. After having all the text, we can edit all together if we desire. If I go to the tab Annotate in the ribbon, I click on it, I can see the text panel here. We can click in this little arrow located there and the window with the text style options appears. Here I can change the font name and I want to set it up as Canberra, for example. On the right there is the font style. I can change it to bold, italic or regular. I can click in Apply and Close. As you see, the text font applied to all the objects. But there are still more properties that I can change. This time I have to select objects. Let's go back to the Home tab. And if I want to select all the objects of a specific layer, on the Layers panel I can click in this icon that's called Isolate. Then, if I select an object and I want one of the texts, when I press Enter, I isolated the layer text labels and all the other layers are locked. This means that if I select everything and I press Delete, for example, it only worked for the isolated layer. Okay, obviously I didn't want to delete the text. I press Ctrl Z to undo the action. Okay, let's select everything again. Click with the right button, go to the quick properties, then I click in this tab that says all, and I can select the kind of objects that I want. I'm going to click in the text objects. And here you can see the most used properties for texts. I can change, for example, the height clicking there. If I type 0.8 and press enter, you can see the text size changed to a bigger one. In Justify, I can change the position of the text. I can place it on center, right, left. There are several options. For me, I prefer to have it centered, but it's as you wish. Finally, if I don't want this layer isolated anymore, click in the icon and isolate right below. Before going ahead in this tutorial, I want to mention this label, which has two lines. We are going to make this with a multiline text. As you remember, I can go to the arrow under text, and there is the option multiline text. To activate this command using the keyboard, you can simply type T. This is a bit different, as I have to open an area where the text will fit in this box. It's only important the horizontal length, because, for example, if I choose this area, I click for the second point, the text that I type fits up to the end of the room, and I can insert any lines that I want. Back to our case, I create this box as I want to fit the text on this room. To go to the next line, I press enter. To finish, just click in another place like the single text. OK, unlike the single text, if I double click in this label, I can see the text editor tab appearing in the ribbon. There is style, formatting, paragraph and other things. For now, I just want to change the text height to a bit smaller to fit there. For that, I have to select the text, go to the size, which is this tab, and type 0.3. I think it's fine. As you see, it fits better there. OK, our floor plan is almost finished. I just don't have the dimension lines there. But first, I want to teach you how to plot the drawing. The example here is going to be this floor plan in an A4 paper with the scale 1/200, and also with this legend included there. First of all, let's introduce you these tabs located on the button at the left. The current one is the model, and it's where we can make all our drawings. The other tabs are specific for printing. For example, here we are in the layout one. This has a specific paper size that I can modify in the page setup manager. Currently, this is an A4 paper. If I have a printer that prints in A4, the result will be exactly like this, included this rectangle. But what is that? It's the viewport. That's like a portal that displays a specific part from the workspace. For example, here I'm going to double click inside this viewport, and I see that I switch it to the model space as it says here. I can zoom in or make any change to the drawing, but be aware that any modification here will affect also the proper drawing. Now let's see how to set up the paper size and choose a specific scale, for example 1/200. I go to the Layout 1 tab, click with the right button, and then choose Page Setup Manager. Here I select Layout 1, click in Modify, and in the window that opens, I can choose the printer, the paper size, along with more options. In the Printer tab, I can select my printer, or if I want to convert to PDF, there are several ways, but I prefer to use this one, DWG to PDF. The paper size, I can keep this one, ISO A4. But look at this is important. The size there are in millimeters, and in my drawing I set up the unit as meters. So I have to go to the plot scale, and here where it says 1 millimeter equals 1 unit, I have to change it. I will put 1000, as 1000 millimeters is 1 meter. At the end I click on OK. As you see, the viewport disappeared. Apparently, of course, because what happened is that the paper was resized, but not the viewport, and if I zoom out a lot, I can see it very big outside. But don't worry, the first thing is to click there and delete it. In fact, I could do it before resizing the paper. Now I zoom in again, and let's create a new viewport. To create a new viewport, I go to this Layout tab that appeared on the ribbon. It's only here when I am in the Layout mode. I click there, and if I click in this icon that says Rectangular on the Layout Viewports panel, I can insert a new viewport. But before, let's create a special layer for it. I name it Viewport, the new layer, and choose this white color here, which is number 7. Click OK, and you realize that in the layout it changes automatically to black. Then I am going to click in Rectangular Viewport. If I click in the arrow, I can see more options, but I just want the first one for now. Then I draw a rectangle inside the dashed lines to be sure everything fits in the paper. After, I double click on it to go to the model space, and now I need to set up the scale for the viewport. It's this icon on the status bar. I click on it. I search for the scale of 1/200, but I cannot find it. But no problem, I can click in Custom. Then I click in Add to add a new scale, and in this window, first I have to type the name of the scale. It can be 1/200, and after I have to fill this 1 paper unit equals 200 drawing units. Click on OK. Go again to Scale and choose 1/200, which is up here. Oh, the scale was very approximate. Now I'm sure this is 1/200. Then the legend. I will start drawing its boundary with the command rectangle. Make sure I draw it in the paper and not inside the viewport. So this label paper has to be displayed. If you are in a model space, double click to switch to paper. Now let's click for the first corner, and the second one put it in the opposite side. But I recommend to draw inside of the dashed area to be sure everything will be printed in the paper. Now, to draw the proper legend, I'm going to use the command line and draw a border of 6×12 centimeters. But as I have only 2 decimals here, I cannot see the centimeters, though I'm going to type the units, and in the precision I change to 3 decimals. I click on OK, and now I can draw easily the box. Here, you can see the dimensions to help you drawing it. To insert text, we are going to do different this time, as I want it to be annotative. Click in the arrow to open the text style, and this time we are going to create 2 new styles. I click in New, and for the first style, I name it Legend Big. Click in OK, tick the box that says Annotative, And by doing this, I specify here the real text height. It's what appears in the paper. As I want it to be 4 centimeters, I put 0.004. The font, I change it to Arial. Click in Apply, then add another style for the small text. For example, the name can be Legend Small. Click in OK, and this time I want it to be smaller, with 2 centimeters. Finally, I can apply the changes and close the window. OK, now it's simple. I go to this tab and select Legend Big. I go to the first line of the box, activate the single line text, then I go to this blank, click for the first point, and this time I don't need to specify the height, just click for specifying the direction. I'm going to type project. Then I do the same for the location and drawing name. After, for the small text, I can use multiline text. First, let's change the style to Legend Small. Type T for multiline text. Specify this drawing area. You can draw the following labels, and then if you select all, there is an option to change the line spacing. I click in 1.5. So now that my paper layout is finished, I can print a drawing. Click with the right button in the Layout tab. Go to Plot here. Click and continue to plot a single sheet. And in the printer here, I want to convert DWG to PDF. This option. Click in OK to save the file where I want. This is my result. However, you can see there the layout border appearing. If you don't like it, you can easily hide it. Going back to the paper space, I can click in a viewport, but it wasn't in the correct layer. I click in this tab in the layer panel to change it to viewport, but you need to freeze it by clicking in this icon. Here it says one object moved to a frozen layer. And go again to the Layout tab to do the same process. Plot it, choose again the printer, and click on OK. Finally, the file appeared without the viewports, like this. Part 7. In this part, we will learn how to insert dimension lines, and I also want to show you some tips. But before proceeding, I want to discuss something about the colors. In this floor plan, I use some light colors because they are easier to see in the dark workspace. However, if I print this drawing, some of the objects will be too light, as you can see here, in the layout mode. So what we need to do is to set up a different color in the viewport. I'm going to double click inside the viewport to switch to the model space. Then if I go to the layer properties and scroll the bar to the right, I can see here the VP color, which means viewport color. I click in the color of the viewport for the furniture layer. Change to this dark blue and I can see the objects easily now. Basically, for each layer, I can have a color for the model space and a different color for each viewport. Now we are going to learn to insert dimensions in Autocad. But before, I want to create a separate layer for them, like what we did for the doors, the windows, stairs, and also the viewport. I go to the Layer Properties Manager, click with the right button, create a new layer and name it Dimensions. Now I choose a color, for example this light green, And of course, in the paper, we are going to put this darker. Now, I want to show you a useful tip. I'm going to type with the keyboard Dimlayer. This is a system variable that specifies a default layer for the dimension lines. I press Enter, and I am going to type the name of the layer where I want to place all the dimensions. I type dimensions, press Enter. Instead, if I would write the name that doesn't exist yet in my layer list, it still works as it creates a new layer for it automatically. Now let's see how to insert a new dimension line. I have to click in the tab Annotate in the ribbon, and there you can see the dimension. Okay, before inserting the dimension line, we should set up them. Click in this arrow to access the Dimension Style Manager. Now there are two types of dimension lines: annotative dimensions and standard dimensions. We are going to see the difference after. For now, let's use annotative dimensions. I can select the first style, and the symbol before indicates that the dimensions here are annotative. Before continuing, I want to change the name here to annotative meters, just to remember the units that I'm using in this file. You will understand after. I'm going to click in Modify, and in this window we can edit other sizes regarding lines, arrows, text and units, for the dimension lines of course. But what means exactly annotative dimensions? All the sizes that I specify here are actually the sizes of the dimension lines in the paper. For example, if I want in the PDF the text height to be 2 mm, I insert here 0.002, because in this drawing I'm using meters. Okay, as by default in Autocad, all these annotated dimensions are imagined to be in millimeters. I'm going to divide all the lengths by 1000. For example, as these distances are in meters, this in the paper will be too much for sure, so we have to change them. Then, we do the same for the other lengths in the other tabs. Of course, and then you can adjust these parameters as you prefer. And if you want to learn more about dimension styles, click in the card that appears above. The text height. Exceptionally, I want it as 1.5 mm, but if you think it's too small, you can increase it. Once I finish, I click in OK and close the Dimension Style Manager. Finally, we can insert a dimension line. It's simple. Click in this arrow, and here you can see several ways of inserting dimension lines. We are going to click in the first one, Linear Dimension. But before, for annotative dimensions, we have to set up the scale, and this has to be the same scale of the viewport that I want my dimensions to appear. So I put the scale 1/200, and I can click for the first point and the second point. Here you have the dimension line. One thing, this M that appears here, it's a suffix that I inserted. If I don't want it, you don't need to put nothing. To draw another dimension line, right on the left, I can click in the icon Continue, and it does it automatically. I just need to click for the second point. And you can see it keeping drawing dimension lines until I press Escape. To draw the dimension of this entire wall, it's basically the same as before. I click in both points, move up the mouse and click for example there. Now let's see another tip. Here I want to increase the baselines at these 4 dimension lines. Because they are continued dimensions, if I click in a stretch point between 2 dimension lines, I can stretch both of them. Instead, if I click in the text, I can simply move it away without interfering with the lines. Now, this wall is diagonal, and if I insert a linear dimension, this is what happens. I draw it between these 2 points, and you can see that it's measuring the vertical distance in the y-axis. But this is not what I want. I want this, the length of the line. Instead of inserting a linear dimension, I have to click in a line. Then you will see that this measures the actual line length. Now that you know how to draw annotative dimension lines, I'm going to make the layout for the details of the door and the window. As you see, I'm using here 2 viewports. So, going back to the layout of the floor plan, I am going to duplicate it. Click here with the right button and then go to Move or Copy. In this window, I choose Layout 1 and create a copy. Click OK, and here you have the new one. I am going to move it to the right, and to change the name, I can double click on it. I type Details, for example. Now I'm going back to the model space, and in this new layout, what I want is this door. The current viewport, I'm going to double click on it to go to the model, move to the drawing to the right until I find the door. Then I zoom until I find the appropriate scale for it. Then I go to the Scale tab and choose a more accurate value. For this proportion, I can try 1/16 and it looks good. Now I double click outside to exit the model space, click in the viewport, and then I can click in this base point to shrink the viewport in this direction. Then I press Escape. So, as we imagine, in the paper I can create how many viewports as I want. I go again to the Layout tab on the ribbon and create a new viewport as I showed to you in the previous video. I'm going to hover the mouse in this endpoint in order to have the upper edges aligned. Now let's find the window, doing the same process as before. I specify the same scale as the door, 1/16, and it's a bit smaller, so maybe a larger scale suits better. Let's choose 1/10. Yes, I prefer this one. Okay, now I want to put annotative dimensions for both drawings. In the Annotative panel, I'm going to click in this icon to insert a linear dimension, but first make sure I am in this tile, Annotative meters. After clicking, as I haven't changed the scale, this message appears, because I should insert the annotative dimensions in the scale of each viewport. For the door, I choose 1/16. Then I insert the dimension lines in this way. Once I finish, I can do the same for the window, and this time its scale is 1/10. Here. Insert the dimension lines in the same way as for the doors. I finished, and finally I can go to the layout of the details. The colors are a bit hard to see, let's change them. Double click in the viewport, go to the layer properties, and again in the viewport color change to a darker one. I'm also memorizing the reference color, because I want to use the same for the window. I double-click in the next viewport and I change the color of the dimensions layer to 86, which is the reference of the previous color. Can you see? Now they are the same, and they are darker, which is good to print. To finish, look to both viewports. Their drawings are in different scales, but the dimension lines have the same sizes. For example, when I specify the text height in the Dimension Style Manager, this 1.5 mm is exactly the size that is printed in the paper. Okay, so it was finally everything in this tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and that you could learn things here. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it yet, and if you desire, of course. See you soon in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.